The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good evening and welcome to this evening's webinar, an introduction to your gut microbiome. We're going to be starting the webinar in about a minute or two, so I'm just going to give a chance for everyone to join into the meeting. It's lovely to see so many of you coming to listen to this really important information this evening. Perhaps some of you might have already heard some information about the gut microbiome. Maybe for some of you it's a brand new concept and you don't know much about it, but hopefully we're going to get to the bottom of it tonight and find out what it's all about. So we are almost dead on. We're dead on 8 o'clock. So let's make sure we start on time because there's lots and lots of information. So my name is Kim Bradley. I'm a team director here in the UK. And I've been working in the health arena for many, many, many years now. And really, the reason I got into looking at nutrition as a way of supporting ourselves was because of my parents. As they were getting elderly, you may have noticed this yourself, maybe with your own parents, but they was coming down with this complaint and then another complaint and then another complaint, each compounding on the last one, each with a different set of medication. And I looked after both my parents in their older years. And my mum passed away about 15 years ago, my father about 10 years ago. And it kind of really just sent a message to me that I didn't want to age in the same way that they did. And I wanted to help other people to age differently as well. Now, the gut side of it came very much into the fore. The power of our gut to help us be well or indeed affect our health was through my father, because as he got older, he had a condition called diverticulitis, which is something you may have heard of, and it can cause really big problems with the bowel, so much so that on one occasion where he had a really bad diverticulitis episode, his bowel burst. Now, fortunately, medical intervention saved his life at that time and he had to have a stoma bag. But this changed the dynamics and the workings of his gut, as you can well imagine. So consequently, this led on to a number of gallstone episodes, which led on to many episodes of antibiotics. And this further upset the imbalance of these delicate microbes that we have in our gut. The result of that meant that the imbalance became so great that he caught a very nasty bacteria called C. diff or C. difficile. And unfortunately, his body could not fight that off. But when my father was going through that, my brother and I was researching all about this particular bacteria and how it happens and what you can do. And there wasn't very much that we could do for him at that time. But the most amazing thing is that science progresses at a huge rate of knots. And now actually there are many different things that people can embark on to help heal themselves from these quite significant bacteria. So what we're going to find out in this webinar tonight, and I tell you this story just to give you context as to why I'm so passionate to share this information with you, but to understand that your gut has a tremendous power to it, but also a tremendous healing power to it. And that's what we're going to be exploring, which is a healthy gut, a healthy you. So the microbiome, what is it? Well, the microbiome is primarily bacteria that lives in and on us. Some of it lives on our skin. Various different types of bacteria live in all the different parts of our skin, from inside our ears to our armpits and all sorts of places. And about 2/3 of it is in our gut. And the gut really begins at the mouth with what's the bacteria that's going on inside of our mouth and in our saliva, and all the way through to the other end. the majority of this gut microbiome is through the intestines. And so what they've come to realize is that this microbiome has a lot of power over the way our bodies function. And that's what we're going to explore tonight. We have around 10,000 different species of bacteria, but also we're housing other things like fungi and viruses and parasites, and non-organic materials like heavy metals and chemicals that we've ingested through our environment. And all this makes up about 90% of who we are. We're actually only about 10% human DNA. And a lot of the way we've thought about our health has been very much focused on the 10% of who we are and not the 90% of who we are, which is this invisible world that we carry around with us. Now, we know that when your microbiome is in a really healthy place, with lots of positive bacteria that are supporting your health, we sleep well, we have more energy, we manage our weight really well, our hormone functions are balanced, our sports performance is enhanced, we don't have so many aches and pains, we don't have the food cravings. All of these things are perfectly in balance, and we feel really alive and younger and happier. But what we actually see is a population that is declining in health in many different ways. We see a massive growing concern of things that are called non-contagious diseases, such as heart disease, for example, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune diseases like thyroid dysfunction, lupus, Sjogren's syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis. We have digestive complaints like acid reflux or IBS or Crohn's or similar things to that nature. Cancer and cancers, osteoarthritis. I mean, the list is endless. And that is actually what we're seeing more and more and more, and more difficulty for people to manage their weight. I was talking to a couple of people this week, for example, and they was just saying that they haven't really changed anything about their diet, but in the last few years, the weight just seems to be creeping on, and no matter what they seem to try and do, what they've done before, hasn't corrected it. And they can't understand why they seem to be getting heavier and heavier when their calorie intake or their exercise, nothing much else has changed. But there are reasons why this is happening to so many of us. And the latest science is that the root cause of all of these common health concerns is down to the imbalance in the bacteria, the microbiome that we're housing in our gut. Now let's have a quick look at what these microbes are actually doing to help and support your health on a daily basis. We have, you might say, positive microbes and negative microbes. And the positive microbes have a job to do. And we've outsourced some of the functions that our body needs to these bacteria to do it for us. So your bacteria is very important at training your immune system. From the moment that we are born, our immune system begins to receive training from the bacteria that we take on board. Through birth, we acquire the beginnings of our bacteria from our mother, and these bacteria begin a training program. And it teaches our immune system what things to react to and what things not to react to. And oftentimes it's our positive bacteria that communicate to our immune system that something's coming in that needs to be addressed, like in the image here, an incoming rotavirus. It's your good bacteria that will send the alarm and send a chemical signal to your immune system to call the troops and get into action. So there's a really delicate relationship between our good bacteria and our immune system, and they're very much interlinked and intertwined. So a healthy microbiome can equal a healthy immune system. There's also a connection between our gut and the brain. Through the vagus nerve, they've discovered that bacteria have a chemical message that can be sent to the brain. And this happens really fast, faster than the transportation of blood around our body, super lightning speed. And these bacteria are having a conversation with our brain. Now, it can be a very positive conversation in terms of affecting our mood and our mindset, but it can be a negative conversation with negative bacteria requesting certain high carbohydrate foods and sugary foods that you think might be your craving or your desire, and isn't your desire at all. It's not the human being of you at all. It's microbes in your gut creating a conversation with your brain that you interpret as your favorite foods. So it's quite incredible what's going on, and we're calling this gut microbiome the second brain. Now, our hormones are very much regulated by our microbiome. They've realized that the microbiome is an extension of what's called the endocrine system. So things like your happy hormone, serotonin, 90% of our happy hormone is manufactured in our gut. So any signs of feeling low or depressed might be an initial look at what's happening with the diet and with the gut as a first line, because it might be just an imbalance there, or it might be something more. But other hormones like GABA, which is your calmness and relaxation hormone, melatonin, which helps you get a good sleep, your female hormones like estrogen and progesterone are well balanced. And certainly if there's any women listening that are having any menopausal issues, you don't need to have them anywhere near as severe as maybe you might be, because these can be more regulated through your gut microbiome and make the menopause a much more easier thing to work through. And equally can affect fertility as well for new people aiming to have children. We have other hormones that are regulated by our gut microbiome, like oxytocin, which is our love, trust, and self-esteem hormone. And then, that energy, the energy to get up and go and achieve your goals and be creative, that comes from your dopamine and your noradrenaline. That's your wake-up juice. So when you're feeling really tired and drained and exhausted, perhaps it's just that you're not getting the right levels of these hormones to give you that feeling of wanting to be into action. So a lot of emotions that we experience come from hormones, which are chemicals that are regulated through the gut microbiome. Now, as you might expect, digestion and metabolism, they break down your foods, they break them into smaller, tiny parts so that your body can absorb it properly. They love fiber, loads and loads of fiber. That's what your microbes really like. They love to digest that. And through that, they help to extract heavy metals and chemicals out of your system. They help to keep the system cleaner. They look after the lining of the gut wall. We're going to talk about that in a bit, because that's so important, that the lining of your intestines is healthy and intact and clean. And that's what your microbes do. They do lots of housekeeping for you. And we have even outsourced synthesizing certain vitamins to bacteria. So lots of B vitamins and vitamin K can be synthesized by your bacteria. And they also have a large control over your metabolic process, which means your metabolism, a slow metabolism that wants to store fat, or a faster metabolism that helps to keep you lean. So many, many different aspects on digestion and metabolism there. So the fact of the matter is, every single person has the potential to achieve elite health. And it doesn't matter what age you are listening to this webinar, because elite health means the best health your body can give you at whatever time of life you are in, from children to the elderly. But what we find is that lifestyle choices that we are making are causing issues within our gut microbiome, which is causing metabolic dysfunction. And metabolic dysfunction basically means that your body processes are not operating optimally. So it could be your heart and your arteries for one person, or your kidneys for another, your thyroid for another, your digestion processes for another. But whenever we have a breakdown of our health in some way or another, then we are going downwards on this scale, slowly moving ourselves away from optimal health and towards poorer health. And what we want to try and do is reverse the process. We want to do something different, do something that's going to upscale that and change that and help your health move towards the blue, the more optimal functioning of your different metabolic functions in your body. So why don't we have, this pinnacle of wellness? Well, three main reasons: diet, lifestyle, and environment. And we're going to quickly skim through these for you on this short webinar this evening. So let's have a look at diet. Well, it probably doesn't come as any surprise to you that your diet affects the microbes in your gut. If you eat a diet rich in natural foods that you source yourself and cook yourself, you are going to have a different microbiome from someone that's very reliant on ready meals, takeouts, ping food, jars of food and things like that. It really is, your microbiome is very dependent upon what you eat, because they eat what you eat. But, we are a bit of a nutritional experiment going on here, because our food has drastically changed in the last 60 years. Since the 1950s, really, food has gone into the laboratory, and we've learned to dry it and process it and package it and add chemicals and colorants and preservatives. We've taken out lots of fats, added in some trans fats maybe, or saturated fats, or really elevated the carbohydrates within foods. And you can see this when you walk down the aisles of your supermarket. If you just think to yourself that the only things that you need as a human being is plant or animal to eat, you've only got to look at all the packaging to see what actually does look like plant or animal. And there's aisles upon aisles of carefully marketed, colourful packaging to tempt you to buy these things that really are not doing any favours to your microbiome at all. We don't have a diet very high in fermented foods, although it seems to be getting a bit more popular, and that's really good news. Things like kefir available in your supermarkets, miso paste, sourdough bread, and so on. But be careful, because some of these fermented foods are coming very high in sugar. Lots of fruit flavored kefirs, for example. So just be mindful of that your live fermented foods are very natural in the way they're made, like live natural yogurts, for example, as opposed to some natural yogurts that I have seen with fruit puree bases and honey bases, and packaged to you like they're really super healthy. You think sugar when you are looking at what you are purchasing in your supermarket trolley. So let's have a look at lifestyle. Well, it's become very popular to enjoy glasses of wine, beer, whatever your tipple is, to enjoy the alcohol, to relax with alcohol. It's a reward to have alcohol. Many, many, many different reasons why people drink, to celebrate. But at the end of the day, your microbes don't drink. And so when we drink, we are having an impact on the population, the diversity, and we kill off many, many microbes in our gut. So 80-20 rule we're talking about here. Have balance. Have days where you're not drinking. Be moderate on the days when you are. And then you will hopefully help to keep more of a balance happening in your gut rather than an imbalance. Too much sitting around. Maybe you've got the job where you're commuting all day, you're sat at a computer all day, your body needs movement, and no more so than your intestines, in order to keep everything digesting properly. Your internal organs require movement. So 30 minutes of a brisk walk is absolutely perfect to, gets the heart beating a little bit, good for cardiovascular exercise, but also, more importantly, keeps everything moving through your intestinal tract and helps to keep that microbiome healthy. Now, if you're happening to take long-term medication, if you're on the birth control pill, if you're on antibiotics, then you definitely would be well advised to support your gut microbiome. All of these things can destroy friendly bacteria, and particularly antibiotics. Their role is to destroy bacteria, and certainly that can be life-saving. But it can take 6 months for your body or your gut to normalize after a dose of antibiotics, because it really can strip out lots of friendly bacteria, as well as perhaps getting rid of those negative ones for you. So, if you've had a dose of antibiotics, then investigate, ask questions, ask the person that's invited you to the webinar tonight, how can you help repopulate your gut and boost up your positive microbes? Because otherwise it's going to be affecting your immune system, your hormones, your digestion, and so on and so on. So we want to keep your friendly bacteria in mind when you're taking your medication. Now, stress can be murder to the gut. I mean, everyone's heard of IBS, I'm sure, and other digestive complaints, stomach ulcers, and so on. But, it can affect all of us in different ways. It can drive up inflammation in the body. It can cause heart disease, which can then later lead to heart attack and stroke. Because stress really damages your gut flora. And then when you have an imbalanced gut flora, it lowers your stress resilience. So you end up on this hamster wheel. So we need to work on ways to take us out of that situation, to get us off the hamster wheel with things that can de-stress us and relax us and bring us down out of these stressful situations. Just think about your hobbies, nice walks in the countryside, meditation, yoga, whatever it is that you enjoy, and make that part of your self-care to bring your body out of stress. Now let's have a look at some environmental factors, some things that we might struggle to control, like the farming industry, for example. There are an awful lot of human beings on the planet that require feeding. So once again, farming moved into the laboratories, and lots and lots of different types of sprays were birthed to create successful crops. Many, many fertilizers of varying types, pesticides, that are not only leaving chemical traces on our foods that we ingest, but also damaging the microbiome of the soil, which leaves us with nutritional deficit in the vegetables and fruits we consume. They simply do not have the same level of vitamins and minerals that we experienced 50 or 60 years ago. And there's many independent reports that you can Google about that, where they have studied the loss of potassium and iron and magnesium and selenium and so many different things through our fruits and vegetables over the decades. And then we have what's going on in our atmosphere. This is called persistent organic pollutants, and it's invisible maybe. We don't always see that as a smogginess in and around, but it's there all the same, and we are breathing it in. We also might breathe in through chemicals that we ingest. Certain jobs can be high in chemicals, but what they're starting to discover is these organic pollutants, also short name of them is POPs, can be stored in our fat cells. We may have the type of body that hooks these pollutants away and stores them safe and sound away from your organs, but it can create more of an obese society, as our bodies are desperately trying to sort of harvest and move away these pollutants from our circulatory system and our organs. Also, people eating highly processed foods are going to have much higher levels of these organic pollutants. And we may have an obsession with cleanliness because we've been marketed to that all bugs are bad. You know, if you think about those adverts to kill all germs dead, you know, but germs are bacteria, and we actually need a wide variety of bacteria. We need a few good, bad ones, not the really nasty ones, but the few bad ones that we might gather from our environment. Our immune system works through those. It gives our immune system training on what to do, and being overly clean is not helpful. It's not helpful to our children to be overly clean. So that, it doesn't give their immune system the right training. Not to mention the amount of chemicals that you're breathing in and ingesting all the time. So, obviously cleanliness with the point of hygiene and food preparation, but just be mindful that, the way we are marketed to is there to sort of almost frighten you into thinking that you're surrounded by all these germs, but actually so many of these germs are essential for our health and our well-being. So how do these three things affect our health? And many more things besides, no doubt, but they cause a negative bloom of bacteria. And these bacteria, they're not like C. difficile or E. coli that could do you really serious harm in a very short space of time. These are pervasive negative bacteria that lead your body towards inflammation. These bacteria are coated with a substance called endotoxins. And these endotoxins are what fuel the different types of inflammation going on. So all the environmental toxins that we are surrounded by, as we said, through food, farming, industry, atmosphere, these are grossly affecting the species of microbiome we are harvesting in our gut to a large degree. We bloom lots of negative microbes that have endotoxins. The endotoxins fuel inflammation, and the inflammation will go to the weakest parts of your body. So it could be cardiovascular disease for some, the skin, like eczema for others, hormone problems, blood sugar problems, weight problems, as you can see here, and it can be multiple things. Like I was saying with my parents, what started as one thing led on to another, and then another, and then another, as the inflammation in their bodies grew, and each body system and function gradually began to be affected in some form or another. And that's how people end up on what they call that pill burger, where you end up with this pill for this, and this pill for this, and this pill for this. So we've got to reverse all this. And the cause that we need to address is the inflammation happening in our gut. Now, endotoxins is big news, and this is where lots of research is being spent, and you can have a look on Google about endotoxins and have a read on these things yourself. But, this abnormal microbial colonization in your intestine is called dysbiosis. And these endotoxins on these negative microbes are primarily what cause damage to the lining of the gut. The cells of your gut wall are interlinked by little chain links that hold the cells tightly together, keeping the undigested food and bacteria inside the intestines until the appropriate time. But the endotoxins break these chain links and cause a gap, a perforation, and that is why we have that term leaky gut that you may have heard. When we have these perforations, the endotoxins can get into the bloodstream. That's what's setting off the inflammation. Undigested food particles can get into the bloodstream, further advancing the inflammation that is happening in your body. And as we said before, if your body has that protection mechanism, it will be trying to do its best to store these endotoxins in your fat cells. So many symptoms of leaky gut, or can be traced back to leaky gut as one port of call, many different digestive issues, but also people who are high in stress, high in anxiety, having problems sleeping, an imbalance in their hormones or fertility, skin issues, feeling tired, dementia, MS. I mean, there's many, many things. So healing the gut is the first place to start. And now on the subject of weight loss, it's really important to understand how to lose weight cleanly and effectively. Because when we have all these endotoxins and chemicals that our body has very carefully and safely stored away in our fat cells, so it's out of the way, when we go on a traditional diet that is not focused on cleaning the system, so this diet may enable you to eat sugary yogurts or yogurts full of sweeteners or processed foods or ready meals, or dried noodles and packaged goods, providing they meet the criteria of the diet. They say you can have this stuff, but it's not clean eating. And what happens is we might well lose some fat because we're reducing our calorific intake, but what we're doing is we're excreting the toxins into the bloodstream. And it has been shown that people who lose weight without cleaning the system increase the circulating toxins, and the inflammation can go up by as much as 150%. So what happens is that when we come off this regime, we go on holiday or Christmas comes around or we get fed up with it, the fat cells that have been laying dormant there, the body knows it needs these fat cells, it calls them into action, and the fat cells soak up those endotoxins back out of the bloodstream, back into the fat, and no doubt make more besides. And this is what yo-yo dieting truly is. What we need to think about is not about the weight. We need to stop thinking about weight, and we need to start thinking about cleaning the body from negative bacteria, from toxins, from chemicals. And that is how you're going to help your body have a leaner body mass. So as the fat is reducing, your body is reducing the fat because actually it's cleaning the cells, it's cleaning you out, and it's eliminating these toxins through your bowels and your urine and your sweat, and consequently there's no more rebound because the body is cleaner. So for anyone that's struggling with weight, going on out, listening to this, you really want to be thinking cleaning the system so much more than you want to be thinking reducing your calories. So Elite Health begins by targeting your health at its core. There are many ways to do that. We can prepare the gut garden with prebiotics that help your bacteria to flourish. We can plant some probiotics in there to help colonize your gut. We can feed the gut with healthy foods, purified foods, antioxidants, and we can get a good detox going, remove some of the negative bacteria, get rid of some of the chemicals that have been building up in the system. Now, I work with a company called Synergy Worldwide, and they have been doing microbiome research for many, many, many years now, including human clinical trials. And they've put together a program that is very advanced in its thinking because it is primarily targeted at healing and supporting the gut and the gut microbes. And it is targeted at clean eating and cleaning the body out. And so we get marvelous results with that. The program is a comprehensive lifestyle transformation program, and it incorporates a high protein, high phytonutrient and low carbohydrate nutrition plan. You have transformative supplements that are healing and supporting and helping you to get the right balance. It comes with exercise guidelines and community support to help you be successful through the program. You get to eat lots of really yummy foods, lots of lovely, colourful, homemade, home-cooked, delicious and tasty foods. And along the route, you get to take some supplements that are helping you to detoxify the body, to cleanse the digestive tract, and to balance your microbiome. Things like Pro-arginine, which helps to get all your circulation wide open so that your body can get to all of the cells and tissues from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, and helps the cells to clean out the toxins. Things like the Biome Shake, which has food for you and food for your microbes, packed full of fibers that you, the human being, can't digest, but your microbes absolutely adore. So it's helping to build up those colonies of microbes. Things like Biome Actives put in lots of good positive microbes, build up the colonies that are going on within. magnesium to help your bowels open really cleanly and to help your large intestine and your colon to start functioning really correctly. And Biome DT, which is very, very green and helps to draw out those heavy metals, draw out the chemicals, and helps to heal the leaky gut that's happening inside your gut. So you're having a balance of purify friendly foods along with the supplements to eliminate the toxins. Now, it's not a weight loss guided program, but it's very common for people to lose weight because they're eliminating the toxins out of the fat. And if you're the sort of person that's storing some of those toxins, you might well find that you lose 5 to 15 pounds in weight. But equally, someone that's very, very slim can do the program because you can certainly eat as much as you want to eat. We're just eating foods from a dedicated foods list. If you're really sporty, we've got many people that in the sports industry that have had tremendous results because when you get your digestion working, it speeds up your recovery, it reduces inflammation to your joints, improves muscle mass, helps your body to get rid of the toxins and the waste byproducts from exercise. So you're going to notice some differences to your personal best when you get your gut really fired up. So Synergy's solution really is about biome care. So we are talking about here total health of the microbiome of your body. This leads to a unique and holistic approach that's totally revolutionary because this program is focused on the 90% of who you are. And that is why we see changes that are absolutely extraordinary. And so I actually have a couple of guests that have agreed to join me on this call this evening because I really want to share with you some stories of why, you know, real people that have had real issues that have seen improvement. So I'm going to turn first of all to Sally for a few minutes, the lovely Sally. She lives up in Harrogate. Sally, thank you so much for joining the call with us tonight.
No problem, Kim. You're very welcome.
Would you tell us, first of all, what was you worried about with regards to your health before you actually embarked on the programme? What was changing for you?
Okay, so quite a number of things, actually. I was really struggling with how I was feeling. I hate to use the word depression, but I was sort of wanting to hide under the duvet. Really quite teary. I'm in my mid-40s, so I wasn't sure whether it was linked to perimenopause, but I couldn't sleep, which was impacting on my energy. I just had absolutely no energy whatsoever. I could have slept all day. I literally, for the first time pretty much ever, had to have 2 weeks off work because I just was not functioning well at all. I just couldn't function. And because I wasn't getting any sleep, it was impacting on my ability to cope with things. I just felt like the smallest thing was like having to face Everest. I just was not able to cope with stuff at all. So my emotion was really high, and I was sort of, really struggling with trying to remain calm. And I mean, I was just a real mess, quite frankly. Liz said to me, would I be interested in trying this? And initially, I just thought, I don't think I can. I think I was in such a bad place that I couldn't even cope with thinking about doing anything at all. But after probably about a month or 6 weeks, I sort of messaged Liz and said, I'm going to have to do something. I just can't, I just seem to be going further and further downhill. And so I said, I think my words were, let's do this, sucker. And
reached the lowest of the low ebb that you were like, I just have to do something now.
Yeah, I really didn't know what to do. I'm a complementary therapist myself. I know about health. I drink lots of water. I had tried taking various supplements. I was taking bits of ashwagandha and magnesium, but nothing was helping me really. and I was really piling on weight. And as you, really interesting listening to you earlier, Kim, because as you were saying about, you know, you just I hadn't changed anything in terms of what I was eating, the amount of exercise that I was doing, nothing had changed, but I literally was just piling on weight. And weirdly, I saw a friend a few weeks ago and she said, well, I went home after I'd seen you one day and said, Sally Fryer's just ballooning. She's just, you know, getting bigger and bigger. And I literally was. I think I put on about a stone within about 2 or 3 months. It was just getting out of control. So, so I was a little bit...
As I said, the lovely Liz, she got you to do the program after you reached that point. So, you know, would you share with us what was the changes that you experienced?
So literally, and I really couldn't believe this was happening, within a couple of days, I was waking up feeling like I had more energy. I felt lighter. I mean, that sounds really weird. I literally felt like I was getting lighter day by day as I was waking up, and I thought I'd give it a few days and weigh myself, and I was just shedding pounds. I couldn't believe it. I lost 12 pounds within the 3 weeks. I had incredible energy. I was just bouncing around. My colleagues at work couldn't believe it. They were like, oh my God, what the hell are you doing? You look amazing. My hair was just so shiny. My nails got really, really strong, and normally they just were breaking all over the place. I literally was sleeping like the dead. I couldn't believe it. I'd gone from waking up and like panicking in the night for, it could be literally 2 or 3 hours before I started the program, to my head hitting the pillow, waking up in the morning, not having woken once, and just having so much energy. I felt so motivated. I mean, I couldn't believe the difference. Within probably a week, I was just like a completely different person. And before, I took a photo of me on my first morning, and I'd made an effort because I was going for a job interview. So I actually thought I looked quite good. But when I look back at it 3 weeks later, when on my final day after my Purify program, I couldn't believe how shocking I looked in comparison to the end of it.
Yeah.
And one of the main things that I really noticed, other than the energy, which was an enormous change, was my mental clarity was amazing. I'd gone from having like a foggy head and just not feeling like I was functioning properly, to just having this mental clarity that was just incredible, and which then gave me all the motivation that I needed to sort of drive my own personal business forward, and a calmness and an ability to cope with things came with that mental clarity. So not only did it change me in terms of my business side, but also in my home life. I was much, much calmer, able to cope with things, not flying off the handle at like the slightest thing because I just didn't feel able to cope. And so literally it just totally changed the person that I am. Actually just totally changed my life.
Well, Sally, thank you so much for sharing your story tonight, and it shows just how much you'd moved yourself up that scale towards elite health when you was heading towards poorer health, step by step by step. You know, you moved yourself up the scale towards elite health, which is absolutely fantastic. And I'm sorry to have to cut you short there, but I really want to hear Paula's story as well. Sorry, we're overrunning just by a minute or two, but it's so important to hear these stories. Sally, thank you so much. And lovely Paula, I know that you had lots of worries as well before you started the program. Would you share with everybody what you was concerned about?
Yes, sure. I'd had eczema from 9 years old, varying degrees from just on my hands up until my early 20s, where I was hospitalized with my arms and legs looking like they'd been dipped in acid. But I'd been taught how to control my eczema through diet. And then last summer, I broke my tib and fib and my ankle. Was taking cocodamol, which totally upset my system. I started putting on weight. The eczema started getting worse, you know, to the point where I had to start wearing gloves on my hand again. And also at the same time, you know, my brain fog, so I wasn't concentrating properly. I had restless legs, you know, poor sleep, waking up tired, falling asleep after lunch and sort of dropping off, you know, at 8:30 in the evening, just wanting to go to sleep. Most of my eczema has been on my hands, or, you know, continually really over the years, always sort of dry. So my nails have always been soft and not growing. So it was last September that I did the Purify. And I lost 11 pounds. My memory improved. My nails grew, so my nails became strong. The quality of sleep improved. You know, I was waking up. Before I'd be in bed sort of, you know, one eye opening. So looking at the clock going, oh, can I stay here a bit longer? You know, a bit longer. And I was getting up later and later. Now up at 6 o'clock every morning, you know, my spots have gone on my face. You know, my skin on my hands is nearly cleared up. But I know my gut health has gone on for, you know, poor health has been on it's a long journey for me. You know, I've got more energy during the day. I just keep going. I've also got calmer parenting, which definitely helps. and my sugar cravings have stopped. But what also I've learned is that, you know, I control my exercise through diet, but what I wasn't educated in was the fact that for me to have my normal skin, I need to nurture my gut every day, you know, to make sure I eat fermented foods all the time. So it's a continual process of looking after myself, I suppose, like you would with a child or a garden. I know I've got to keep chopping my gut up and keeping it happy.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing, both Paula and Sally. And, you know, everybody's transformation is a little bit unique because their microbiome is unique. It's as unique as your fingerprint is to you. But we get such amazing results so quickly. And we see results all over the place. You know, you'll see some of these posts on social media that we try and put up there to encourage people to understand about their gut microbiome, because you can get such fast transformation through the gut. You know, your microbes live and die in days. And so people's lives can be changed very quickly by focusing on these microbes. So I hope that you've learned something really interesting this evening. I hope that you've learned that, you know, where we need to go is to reduce inflammation, to clean out the system, and to think about what we're eating, as well as healing and supporting the gut. So if you've got any questions at all, please go and speak to the person who's invited you to listen to the webinar, or maybe you're listening to the recording here, and get those questions answered. Maybe just have a chat about what the program entails so that you can make an informative decision on whether it's something that resonates with you or not. But thank you for your time and attention. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar this evening, and I wish you a really wonderful rest of the evening. So good night to you.